September 11th, 2001. A date etched in the soul of America. The Twin Towers, the Pentagon, the brave men and women of Flight 93. Nearly 3,000 lives taken. It was the deadliest act of foreign aggression on American soil. And the man behind it all? Osama Bin Laden.
Person named Osama Bin Laden.
We know him as the face of al-Qaeda, the global terrorist. But the man the world hunted for a decade was far more complex and far more unsettling than his bearded image suggested.
Admiration for what was then the world's most wanted terrorist, responsible for killing thousands.
What were the secret contradictions of the Saudi millionaire turned global jihadi? The bizarre truth about his medical history, his paranoia-fueled leadership, and the strange reality of his suburban hideout in Pakistan. This is not just the story of a villain. It's the untold file on Osama bin Laden and the chilling reality of how one man's rage changed America forever. Subscribe to Untold Vault, where we peel back the layers of history's darkest secrets. The Golden Cage, a broken scion. Osama bin Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden. Born in 1957 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, his life began not in a cave, but in a golden cage of privilege. He was one of more than 50 children of Mohammed bin Laden, a self-made billionaire whose construction empire was deeply intertwined with the Saudi royal family. He was educated, groomed for business, and studied civil engineering at King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah. This was a man designed to build bridges, not destroy them. The sheer irony is the foundation of his fury. He lived a life bankrolled by a pro-Western Saudi regime, yet his entire ideology was built on the rejection of that same Western influence. He was a product of modernity who declared war on it. His turning point wasn't poverty or religious zealotry alone. It was the rejection of his destiny. He abandoned the immense wealth he stood to inherit, choosing instead a path of extreme, puritanical Islam, often influenced by radical university professors. He transformed his economic power into ideological weaponry, a contradiction that fueled his movement. The engineer of terror, birth of al-Qaeda. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 provided the necessary crucible. It was here that bin Laden, armed with his family's money, his engineering expertise, and an unwavering religious zeal, found his true purpose. He wasn't just a financier, he was a logistics expert. He used his construction know-how to build tunnels, supply lines, and bases for the Arab Mujahideen. This period taught him valuable lessons in asymmetrical warfare and networking. In 1988, as the Soviets withdrew, he formalized his ambition. Al-Qaeda, the base. It wasn't just a militia, it was a transnational database, an organizational blueprint for a global holy war, created by a man with an engineer's precision. Bin Laden was uniquely dangerous because he fused ancient fundamentalism with modern, corporate-style management and an understanding of decentralized network power. When the 1990 Gulf War saw American troops stationed in Saudi Arabia, the land of Islam's two holiest sites, bin Laden viewed it as the ultimate betrayal. He declared a personal and ideological war, first on the Saudi monarchy, and then, inexorably, on the United States itself. His enemy was no longer communism. It was the West's presence in the Middle East. The blueprint of hate, the terrorist timeline. Bin Laden's campaign against the United States was a cold, calculated climb. It didn't start with 9/11, it was a decade in the making, and America failed to fully heed the warnings. 1993, the first World Trade Center bombing. Though not centrally orchestrated by him, bin Laden publicly praised the attack, recognizing the symbolic value of the target. 1996, Declaration of War. Bin Laden issued his first formal fatwa against U.S. forces, demanding they leave the Arabian Peninsula. He was essentially telling the world his entire agenda. 1998, the embassy bombings. Al-Qaeda simultaneously bombed U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing over 200 people, including 12 Americans. This attack showed Al-Qaeda's global reach and coordinated planning. It was the moment the FBI finally placed him on the most wanted list. 2000, the USS Cole attack. A suicide bombing on a U.S. Navy destroyer in Yemen. A final lethal test run of Al-Qaeda's strategy before the main event. The scary truth: Bin Laden's hatred was not impulsive. It was a well-documented, meticulously executed military-style campaign, written down and carried out with an engineer's chilling attention to detail. The mind of the mastermind: ego, isolation, and control. What kind of man could order the deaths of thousands? Bin Laden's inner life, pieced together from recovered documents, reveals a leader driven by a profound, almost messianic ego. He was completely obsessed with his public image as a heroic jihadi. He gave detailed instructions on how his video and audio messages should be distributed, even criticizing his followers for poor lighting in his messages. He was a propaganda director as much as a terrorist leader. But the most unsettling secret was his paranoia and isolation. After September 11th, living on the run, his personal health deteriorated. He suffered from chronic health issues and relied on a rotating cast of doctors and herbal remedies. He became increasingly cut off, demanding that his top lieutenants communicate only through archaic, laborious methods to avoid detection. This isolation amplified his strategic arrogance. He rejected advice, focused obsessively on attacks on the U.S. mainland, and in many ways drove al-Qaeda into a corner. He was the figurehead, but his growing detachment from reality would eventually sow the seeds of his own organization's decline. The $500,000 attack, the cost of global chaos. The cost of the war on terror is measured in trillions, but the cost of the 9/11 plot itself, the event that triggered it all, astonishingly low. According to the 9/11 Commission report, the total expenses for planning and executing the attacks, travel, flight training, lodging, were estimated to be less than $500,000. Think about that. A $500,000 investment that led to approximately $3 trillion in total economic damage and military spending by the U.S. alone. This wasn't just a terrorist attack. It was a masterful display of strategic economic warfare. Bin Laden knew he couldn't defeat the U.S. militarily, but he could bleed its economy dry and lure it into costly, protracted wars. He wasn't just aiming for body counts. He was aiming for geopolitical bankruptcy. The ultimate, darkest legacy of his engineering mindset was this: maximum destruction achieved at minimal cost. The suburban prison, Abbottabad's strange reality. For nearly a decade, the world searched for Bin Laden in the rugged caves of Tora Bora or the tribal mountains of Pakistan. The reality was far more mundane and far more insulting to U.S. intelligence. He was living in a quiet, high-walled compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, a pleasant town known for its military academy. Not a remote cave, but a spacious suburban hideout. His daily life there was a bizarre paradox. He had no phone, no internet, and personally supervised the incineration of all garbage. Yet, within those walls, he maintained his control, watching old propaganda videos and micromanaging al-Qaeda operations through couriers. He even installed a special water tank to shield the compound from satellite surveillance. the construction engineer to the bitter end. The details uncovered after the raid are disturbing. He was watching himself on TV, still obsessed with his legacy, plotting the next grand scheme, even trying to organize a 10th anniversary attack on America. Operation Neptune Spear, the final chapter.
After almost a decade, U.S. intelligence stunned. SEAL Team 6, a U.S. elite special forces unit, is touch-up or kill mission.
The manhunt ended in the darkness of May 2, 2011. Operation Neptune Spear, a stealth raid conducted by U.S. Navy SEALs deep inside Pakistani territory. The most wanted man in the world, the architect of global terrorism, was found on the 3rd floor of his hideout. He was not captured. He was killed after a brief but violent engagement. His death was the symbolic closure America needed, a raw moment of justice. But the story did not end there. The mystery that persists. Why didn't anyone in the Pakistani establishment know? Was bin Laden truly operating in isolation, or was there tacit support? The Abbottabad files contained hundreds of thousands of documents, providing an unparalleled look into the inner workings of al-Qaeda, exposing new threats and confirming the depth of the network. Bin Laden was gone, but his base and its corrosive, decentralized ideology continued to mutate, giving rise to new groups and inspiring a generation of lone wolf attackers. The dark legacy, a wound that changed America. Bin Laden's final legacy is not just the tragedy of 9/11, but the profound, permanent shift he forced upon the American psyche and the world order. He created the modern, hyper-vigilant security state, triggered 2 major wars, and fundamentally altered how Americans travel, communicate, and view the world. He weaponized fear, and for a time, fear became the governing principle. Bin Laden was not a cartoon villain. He was a failed civil engineer, a disgruntled rich kid, a calculating fanatic who used his organizational skills and immense personal resources to commit the ultimate act of ideological terrorism. He was terrifying because he demonstrated that a man, ordinary in his origins, yet fueled by radical ideology and the hubris of wealth, could bring a superpower to its knees. And that's the dark truth history must never forget. Because if we forget how one bitter man can turn rage into an instrument of mass destruction, we are truly doomed to repeat the failures that led to 9/11. So the next time you hear the name Osama bin Laden, remember the complexity, the contradiction, and the cold calculation that lay beneath the surface. Subscribe to Untold Vault for more chilling secrets, because the past is never truly buried.